Welcome to episode 5 of The Sleeping Man on the Yagi Box Podcast Network. Today you will have Greg Kerber, yours truly, Tara Rule, and Jude Goldman. Interesting podcast in that we cover a lot of ground in this, but when you sum it up at the end of the day, I believe we are all imprisoned. And it's becoming to the point, if you look at Australia, they're completely imprisoned at the moment. You never hear anything about it. Go take a look, hit the newspaper, see some of the foreign press. But as our society, we become self-censored. That's the first place. It begins there, in the mind, where you will not say things for your fear of offending someone. Well, guess what? You're going to be offended in your life. Get over it. But that's our government putting it into our brains that we need to think a certain way. We all need to think the same way. We all need to move in the same direction. Number one. Number two, COVID has created an environment where our government has locked us up. They locked us down. That's what happens in prison. They lock you down when something goes wrong or they feel something is out of control. They locked us down. With this COVID, there's been threats of doing it again. In other countries, they have done it. We just haven't reached that complete point yet, but we get there little by little every day. We lose a little bit of this. And it's really scary when people will give up pieces of their freedom out of fear. Fear is the driving component. They're all fear porn experts in government. If I hear one more time someone's going to die from drinking water with this infrastructure plan, we have the most incredible system for clean water in this country. No one dies from drinking water. All of this ongoing fear and fear and fear. Anyway, this podcast kind of gets into that. It's broad. We cover a lot of topics. It was a fun podcast. Have a listen. You decide for yourself. And I'll see you inside. We always, in the very beginning of the internet in 1999, we looked at the internet as the equalizer. Mm-hmm. And you had all these, it was a very organic situation we were in. You had the whole, all these businesses were popping up all over the place related to the internet. But the informational component of it was the most fascinating. And in its true form, Facebook and Twitter and all of these companies, YouTube, it was a real interesting thing. They used to call it the long tail content. You know, what would be more interesting? Would a TV series on a major network be interesting, or would the long tail? Someone who's out there, private film, independent filmmakers. If you really want to think about that, South Park in the beginning, those were off the beaten path.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you can't have that shit on primetime TV.
Nope.
All right. So the real challenge, and when we were doing Yagi Box, we were creating it so it couldn't be turned off. Okay, that was the whole point of it. We knew we were going to be getting into things that were controversial, and we knew that there was going to be people who didn't like it. And my whole thing was to just get out there and to get the truth. What we know is no one is, in reality, you still have the pseudo-intellects who go read the New York Times, but none of my kids read the New York Times. New York Times, what's the New York Times?
Right.
It's a short life. They've got another 10 years, and they're toast. During my existence in the media business, a company by the name of General Media was going to buy my company. What you found out, the only way they made money was during elections, right? They were down along the eastern seaboard, Virginia. They were all battleground states, and they waited every other year to make money, but throughout the rest of it, they didn't make money. And it was because nobody's reading the newspaper anymore.
Right.
So if you look at the proliferation of Alex Jones and Rogan and, the Lex Friedman, all these guys that are out there doing these podcasts on interesting subject matter, that's where people are going to get their information today. Young people are going to podcasts and things like this to get their information. They are not waiting there, going to the New York Times to find out what's going on in the world.
No. I think a lot of stuff, especially for like Gen Z and stuff, is even social media outlets like TikTok. And I think TikTok is kind of interesting. I don't know if I would imagine that something must have happened between the time of, I know that the US government was really kind of working to get rid of TikTok because it, a lot of it is kind of Chinese spyware.
Totally.
Which,
but they kind of let it fly on TikTok.
They kind of do. And I think there's a beauty to it.
Yeah.
For instance, if I'm talking about something with someone over the course of a week, something on my TikTok feed that I have not typed into my phone will show up, like relevant stuff. So it's kind of nice to have, kind of something reading my mind in a way.
Lazy browsing, right?
Lazy browsing for sure. But I do, I think that a lot of people go to places like TikTok for information because it's not, quote, run by the United States government and the media. At this point, I would imagine there must have been some deal made where it has to be, because I'm hard pressed to believe that,
yes,
especially entities like the CIA would be okay with any sort of social media outlet flying under the radar, that they don't have control over.
Yeah.
I don't think that's possible.
Well, you've got Telegram, Rumble, some of these platforms that are, they're welcoming the fringe. They're not going to shut them down. Mm-hmm. They are outside the realm of, the establishment that's out there as far as the media is concerned. Mm-hmm. And listen, they knew, I believe the government knew. That's why they're invested through Vanguard, BlackRock, these venture, DARPA, the CIA, InQtel, which is their, they knew that they had to get on this stuff. So they started early on the internet. But the thing that's happened now is, right, we can go sit out. We got a podcast. We got a full network. We got the whole thing. We can sit here. We can say anything we want. We don't want to say anything we want. We want there to be relevance in it. We want there to be truth in it. We want to say things that matter. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure we do the work and find out. And it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Every week, I can't believe the amount of time I have to spend making sure this is true, that's true. But what is out there is, it's just, our goal is to create an informational platform that is solid, that, when you're listening to it, it's for real. But I have listened to some shit, especially after the Trump election where Biden had won. And I had listened to some things about, the military is going to come in with him. They're going to do this and that. And just all this propaganda bullshit that's out there that is just, none of it's true. And that's it. You kind of buyer beware, right? We're consumers. Yeah. We're great consumers. You have to go out there and try and figure out what's real, what's not real, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. But let me tell you, there is plenty of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
We've been
totally.
The Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird, New York Times, Washington Post, totally bought, and everybody else. I mean, all the major networks. None of them are making money right now in the news. How are they getting money? How are they surviving? I'm quite sure probably the government or off-balance sheet programs are paying for their existence. Billionaires like Jeff Bezos are buying the Washington. Regardless, the Washington Post makes a headline, it gets on national TV. Mm-hmm. So they've got that power. And I believe that, they may lose money. Bezos may be spending losing $30 million a year there, but he has the influence that creates reaction and the fear that they put into people. Let's face it, everything is fear porn today.
Oh, yeah.
Politically
speaking,
right?
In general.
Which is why it would be nice to also include the light at the end of the tunnel when we do these podcasts, I think another thing, issue about the free speech when you're doing a podcast or whatever is, as soon as you become tied to corporate sponsors, then you're beholden to what that company or entity decides is okay and what's not okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was one of the things they said on Rogan's transition over into
Right.
Spotify. They were saying that,
Right.
and Mouthy Buddha had actually done a video on that. If anybody knows Mouthy Buddha, I think he's a brilliant guy. He connects the dots like nobody can. He's really the way he kind of lays out the world for you is, and it's pretty sinister and it's dark, and you can take it in small doses, but he's a brilliant guy. He knows what he's doing. He's got a group of attorneys that work with him. That's why he hasn't been sued yet, because when you see, that's the other thing. Alex Jones has never been sued except for the Sandy Hook thing. But he's never been sued by anybody else but that I'm aware of. And that's got to tell you something. A lot of these guys don't get sued because they're telling the truth. Believe me, if they were...
Well, they came down on Joe Rogan recently because of the whole, how he was treating his positive COVID test with the ivermectin thing. And,
yeah.
Right.
They called it horse medicine,
dewormer,
horse dewormer medicine and all that.
Right.
And he, I've got it. I've got the whole kit. I got it for 40 people.
Yeah.
I do. I got the whole thing. I got it. Something goes wrong. I'd use it in a heartbeat.
Could you afford the human dose, or did you have to go with the horse dose?
Oh, I got the horse dose, of course.
Yeah, I got the horse dose. I got the horse dose.
No, I bought the whole human thing. It's not that expensive. I mean, here's the reality. The cost for it. So the vaccine is about $30 per person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you can get it, I did get the real stuff, but it's got a premium on it now, right? But if you could get it when it was before it had all this, the demand, everybody wants it. Before
the stock went up.
Yeah, before the stock went up, but it was like $8, and you could treat.
Wow.
Yeah, you could treat everybody. You get the full treatment of it for $8, and we're all divided into these tribes, and it's my tribe against your tribe, whether it's politics or who we are as far as our ethnicity or any of this stuff. And I think that's where the problem is. I think we've got to combat. Listen, I was in prison, right? And here's what I used to tell everybody. I was in prison. I said, okay, I became the leader of 120 guys. They were all guys who didn't like bosses. They didn't want to be told what to fucking do, no matter what happened. I learned something from this, okay? Here's what I learned. I was like, okay, I learned something that is prevalent in today's psychology. And that was, I brought all these guys. I was white. Mm-hmm. I was educated. I was older, and they fucking hated me. The black population in the prison, and I led a platoon of guys that were military. We were in a military prison. They fucking hated me. And they threw out a black guy, and I became their leader. And that was like, so the only way that I could see I was going to survive this was, okay, I'm going to take all of the black leaders, these guys that were gang leaders, like the guys that were the guys that led their, in prison, you got the blacks, you got the Asians, all right, I'm going to bring you all in a room. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be the laundry room, where everybody gets killed because it's insulated, nobody can hear anything. And I'm going to bring you in there because I'm going to say, hey, you can trust me. I'm bringing you into a place where I may not come out of. Let's go in that room. We went into the room, and I told them, you know who the enemy is? I'm not your enemy.
Yeah.
I am trying to get out of here. We all should try and get out of here together. Mm-hmm. Let's put our differences aside. The real enemy is the guy sitting in the other room.
Yeah.
That's CO.
Right.
Because his job's to keep you here, because his job depends on it. Mm-hmm. I said, we got to get together as a team, and we have to survive and get out of this. So we all have to work together, or we don't. And if we don't work together, then there's uncertainty whether I'm going home, you're going home, or any of us are going home. You know what? That moment in time changed the whole dynamics of our success. And it was that. That's what we have to do now. We have to look at Washington. Mm-hmm. We got to say, those people, fuck those people. Mm-hmm. We have to come together. There's more of us than them.
There's way more of us.
Yeah.
Way more of us.
And that's the attitude we have to have. We have to have that attitude to straighten this shit out.
And they're making it impossible, because not only is it, I don't believe what you believe in, but now it's, well, I believe the same thing as you, but not enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and
I'm not quite as offended as you are, so therefore you're not offended enough. You don't believe in what I believe in. And it's like, it's getting so crazy. And I think there's so many things that are also bringing people together that they didn't anticipate. There have been so many events that have gone on lately where certain groups of people that they worked so hard to divide are now coming together, because now it's like, oh, we both agree that doesn't make sense. And who's the common enemy here?
Right.
And I think
our common enemies are government and the elitist society, the ones who are selling, you guys have to wear masks, but I'm not going to wear masks. The Getty wedding in California, where there's a mandatory mask thing going on, right? There is the Illuminati. Look at that fucking wedding. You are going to see the fucking Illuminati, right? You're going to see it like you've never seen it before. Newsom, Pelosi, Republicans, Democrats, that's our enemy. They're our enemy, okay? And we have to just face that realization. That's my belief. And
hey, guys, I have to sign off. We'll leave it on this positive note.
Is this scary for you, buddy?
I am. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Oh, my God.
Well, the laptop's about to die.
We got on our high horse here
I have
tonight.
To go to
I don't know. It just was.
No, it was great. It's great.
We just got on our high horse.
Let's do it again.
All right, Jude.
Yep.
We'll all sign off. That's enough. Let's end on that high note. It was semi-positive.
Semi-positive.
Yeah.
We'll have to come together.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was great. Yeah.
Kumbaya.
And we should keep it going because there's lots more to say. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kumbaya.
All right. Love you guys.
All right.
Love you.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
YagiBox.com